Friends, patriots, fellow YouTubers, I just wanted to do a video today based on chicken shenanigans. I think everybody's okay. I wanted to do a video today on some of the things, what I've been trying to do as a hobby slash small business is with spinning fibers, knitting, all kinds of fiber arts type stuff. My friend Erin over at Crafty Housewife Yarns, she posed a question, and I thought it was actually a good question as far as, you know, why do not, it seems like people who are spinners now, right? It's like it became trendy or curiousness, whatever, and then people ended up getting involved in it, but there doesn't seem to be a lot more or newer spinners. And so I think some of it has to do with, at least this is my little analysis, I take that for what that's worth, is a lot of people have not actually seen homespun yarn. They don't know what it looks like. They don't know the possibilities of it, and they don't know why it's different. They don't see the value other than they go to, say, a yarn store, and maybe they have somebody who's a spinner and they're carrying that person's yarns versus, you know, something from a Baracco or something that is a manufactured yarn, and it's cheaper. So why the differences, right? So one of the things I wanted to show you when I was doing some of my historical reenactment things, one of the projects that I did was a triangle loom. It's a single strand. I have the loom. I should have a video where I was actually making this shawl. But I started it with, I was doing as a participant in one of the historical reenactments, and there was a lady there who is very well known within the historical reenactment community, Carol Lee, in her Fiber Hill studio that she has out in Missouri, I think. And she has all kinds of really wonderful stuff. I mean, she's like the godmother as far as I can tell. I didn't buy one of her looms. I had a friend who was doing some of the stuff who knew about it, and her husband had made a loom, and so I bought a loom off of her. And so I made this shawl. Okay, if you can kind of see it. I'm going to step back and show it to you. I made this shawl. It's got the fringes. You can kind of see through it. Okay. It's a lovely shawl. It is lighter. Whoops, don't fall down. And I'm going to show you as best as I can what I don't have, maybe this will be better, the actual fringe. When you pull on it, it kind of doesn't give. Okay, this was a yarn from a company called Brown Sheep. And much, I believe, of your commercial yarns are basically going to be like this. There's no give, there's no spring. They have to tease it, pull it, stretch it, slap it, so that it behaves the same, okay? And this is how it is. The individual yarn fiber, I don't know if I'll be able to do this on the other one, is that size. This actually should have been 4 strands of yarn that was cabled together to make the fringe. But it's nice, it's fine, it's lovely. Actually, everybody who sees it, they're like, ooh, wow, that's really nice. I love that. I love the color, la la la. It was a simple over-under technique, nothing like truly like a pattern to it. It was the very first shawl that I did. And I was very proud of it, and I'm very happy, and I like it, and I use it, and it was fine, okay? Then, earlier this year, because I've been doing a lot of spinning, I decided I wanted to make a shawl, and I wanted to make a shawl out of my own yarn, just to see the difference, because I wasn't sure what kind of a difference there was going to be. So I ended up making this shawl. Now, granted, actually, I got a blanket pin in it. Hold on a second. Let me take it out. This little dealio. I wasn't sure if I would even like it as much as this shawl. But you know, one of those things you never know until you try. So I got at the top this one. Okay, a little bit denser. You can't see through it as well, or at all. Maybe you can see through it a little bit. Okay. It is heavier. It is thicker. I'm not sure how many ounces that is. I'm gonna say half. This should be about an 8-ounce shawl. So that one's probably about 4 ounces. This one did not have tassels. I ended up just doing a crocheted edge, so I don't really have any end pieces of yarn to show you. But this is a 2x2 downhill, like twill, basically pattern. I actually did a pattern with this one. It turned out really, really nice. It's very, very, very warm, but kind of like with, let's see if we can attempt to compare apples to apples. This is the top of, let's get top to top. Okay, the top of the brown sheep. See that that's the corner, right? And let's pull it. There's a little bit more of a stretch on the bias, right? Not much, but a little bit. Now this is the top of my homespun, and this is Shetland, by the way. It's actually a little less, I would say, stretch on the bias, probably because of the way it was woven. And this is actually the corner, so you can see that. And that will obviously make a difference as far as the stretchability. But what the difference, obviously, between the weight of the garment, if you will, but I spun this. I had control of this because I just had fiber, and I could make this either into a worsted style yarn, which is where all the fibers, like if this is fibers, where all the fibers are stacked like cordwood. Okay, they would all be very together. They wouldn't be apart. They would be all very together and very dense. Those make very long, hard wearing yarns, socks, or a prime example. Whereas this, I spun this basically a semi woolen. It was a woolen prep, but I spun it kind of worsted, which is trying to align the fibers a little bit more. So this has a lot of loft to it. There's like a much more, I don't know how well you can see, but there's like a crush factor, if you will. Whereas this one, it doesn't, I don't know if it's going to translate as well onto the, you can kind of see that. This has more loft to it. It may not translate so well in the video, and I apologize for that, but this is a significantly warmer garment. It's the end of July. I don't want to wear this thing, but in the wintertime, it's wonderful to wear. And even though, yes, of course, just kind of common sense says, well, it's going to be double the ounces, right? It's not. When you actually pick them up and you can feel the difference. It's not that much more weight, but the way that this is spun, the way that this is taken care of, you can tell that there is a difference, and I would say a better quality. Even though I'm by no means some kind of like super professional or anything like that with my hand spinning, I think I do a reasonable good job. I've been doing it for years. It definitely doesn't look commercial. It looks like homespun, but that is sort of the allure to it. A lot of people get very cranky with the whole like, oh, well, I don't want my yarn to look, lumpy, bumpy or whatever. And so here's your professional yarn, and no, it doesn't really have any lumps or bumps or what have you when it's a finished product. This is woven. It's not knitted or crocheted, but Here is the hand spun, okay? How much different? Does it look that much more horrible, if you will? In fact, I would say, based on texture, you can probably tell where there's a little bit of thickness and thinness to it, but it's really not that much different. And when you knit or crochet or weave with homespun, the finished product, a lot of times you can't tell. You just can't tell. So maybe this video is maybe geared towards knitters or crocheters or weavers. Obviously, people who are spinning, but think of it as a way to expand your knitting talents into other frontiers, because you may find a wool, let's say like Shetland or a lesser long wool or something that you just really love, and you're not gonna probably find that in Walmart or even Joann Fabrics or someplace, you know, that's a big box store, craft store. Your local yarn shop may have that, or they may have contacts with people who can get you, you know, these small businesses. Online is becoming a wonderful marketplace for places and people to explore and purchase different types of yarns. Unfortunately, sometimes these things are expensive. A lot of times what I have found as a spinner is that I can't get the raw materials particularly cheap. So that sets the tone for a lot of it, is if I can't get the wool cheap, then that's, you know, instead of starting way down here, I'm already starting up here, and then I have to build on top of that. But, you know, there's a lot of places around, and there's more and more people who are becoming interested in conservancy, livestock. I just saw a thing with the I think it's the livestock conservancy exchange, or the exchange conservancy. I don't remember the exact name of it, but Isabella Rossellini is a member of that. She does a thing, I think, with ducks. And I believe Chris Pratt has some sheep and stuff like that. So people are trying to save certain breeds. And this is why. This is one of the reasons why this is extraordinarily sustainable, despite what certain people will talk about, that, you know, animals get harmed. Sometimes when they get sheared, they do not get killed. They get sheared, they will get nicked. Their skin will get nicked. It is not life-threatening. It is like you clip your fingernail a little bit too close. And if it's a really bad one, they might give them an injection for an antibiotic or something like that, just to make sure it doesn't get infected. Change position for a minute. I thought you might want to see my garden. It's coming along pretty good. And look at that. Look at that tree. Got a little bit of heat stress, and it's already starting to change. My goodness, fall is on the way. But anyway, as far as knitters, crocheters, weavers, you know, this may be just a way for you to increase your repertoire of skills. It is not particularly hard to spin, and it does not have to be expensive. There are plenty of different kits that you can start, because you may not even really like it. You may like the homespun wool, but you may not actually like spinning. You just want to stick with, you know, your basic knitting or whatever it is that you're doing, and that's fine too. But as far as being a spinner, you may find that you really enjoy that, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, as a person who is a craftsperson, to produce something like that. Yarns are used and needed, and you will see and find a lot of different qualities in the wools. Like, I'm sure, like, if you're a weaver, you can tell the difference between, you know, different cloths and all kinds of stuff. There is a difference, and I hope that people will start to actually explore that a little bit more, because it's part of our history. It's part of our history. We should not lose that. We should not lose some of these skills. One of the things that always drew me to the historical reenactment community was because I felt like we had thrown the baby out with the bathwater. There were skills and techniques that worked far better 100 years ago than what we do right now. Why did we change that? because somebody somewhere along the line said, hey, look at this newfangled, jingle bell. And we decided that we were going to go ahead and use that. And we have lost some of our classic knowledge base. This is one that I don't think that we should lose. And I think that we should attempt on some level for these things to be preserved as much as possible, especially in today's crazy topsy-turvy world. Having a touchstone for things that are who we are as Americans, and maybe even who you are in your family. I know I have found out only somewhat recently that I had a great grandfather and his whole family that were in the Irish linen industry. And here I am, a great granddaughter, and I am interested in spinning and weaving and doing all those kinds of things, right? So think about it, check it out, look into it. There's lots of options online as far as being able to order kits, and there's a ton of support in online communities. Far more. When I first started to try and do this like 15 years ago, nobody knew nothing, and there was no such thing as these online groups and these online communities where you can just like pop on to Facebook and say, hey, I have this problem, what is this? And you take a picture with your phone, and it's super easy. So anyway, give it a thought, think about it, and take a dive. And remember, you are the gold. Bye, y'all.